Hello, everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinar. My name is Princess Oriarabo, and our topic for this month's webinar is essential contracts for tech businesses. So we are going to be diving in why, um, as a tech startup or as a tech business, you need to have certain contracts to ensure the success of your business. So we're going to be going into that. Now, it's important to have clear agreements in place or clear contracts in place as a tech startup and as a tech business to ensure that everyone knows their roles and responsibilities. Now, without these contracts, tech startups risk losing their intellectual property or facing legal challenges that could jeopardize their success. And it is very essential for you as a tech startup or tech business offering some kind of services to protect your intellectual property and to ensure that you are compliant with your legal obligations. So we have a variety of essential contracts for tech businesses. We have the non-disclosure agreements, we have employment and contractual agreements, we have intellectual property assignment agreements, we have software licensing agreements, we have terms of services, terms of service, and privacy policy. We also have service level agreements, we have data processing agreements, we have partnership or collaboration agreements, and we have investment agreements with the likes of many. For the point of this, or for the focus of this webinar, we will be focusing on just five, and I'll be diving into what they mean and why it's important. First thing is the non-disclosure agreement. Now, a non-disclosure agreement is a contract that prevents parties from sharing or disclosing confidential information. Now, if you are, as a startup, you're developing a new product or working on a sensitive project, an NDA ensures that employees, contractors, or partners can't leak your ideas or strategies to outsiders. Now, this is important when you're collaborating with others who might have access to your proprietary information, like and your client data or business plans. So it ensures that employees, contractors, or business partners cannot share or misuse sensitive information, which is crucial when developing new tech products. And when you're working with external collaborators, you do not want your confidential information to be out there or to be all over the place. So an NDA ensures that those things are protected. We'll be moving on to the next one, which is terms of service and privacy policy. Now, the terms of service governs how users interact with the platform, while for the privacy policy, it's actually just explains how your user data is collected and how it is used. Now, this is important because these documents, that is the terms of service and the privacy policy, they set the rules for user behavior on a website or an app. And it also ensures that you are compliant with like data protection laws. It will help you build trust with users because when you're transparent with your data practices, you're showing how users interact with the platform. You have something governing that. You show how your user data is collected, what data is collected, what is being used, freedom for them to delete their data if they want to, all of that. Once that is clear in your once that agreement is made available, you will build trust with your user. Like I said, the privacy policy ensures transparency and it helps build trust with your users because they can see clearly what data you're taking from them, why you need it, and there's also the freedom for them to delete their data if they want to. So this also ensures compliance with data protection laws. in Nigeria and even outside of Nigeria. So moving on to the next, intellectual property assignment agreements. So for a tech company, it is protecting your IP is very crucial for securing, not just securing funding and partnerships, for ensuring that any software or design or innovation that you developed during your work time automatically gets transferred to the company. And in a tech business, it's important to protect your core assets. You cannot just leave everything. You can't wait until there's a risk before you protect your designs or any software or any innovation you developed as a tech startup. You can't wait until you're having issues before you do that. Move to the next, which is software licensing agreement. Now, this contract details how third parties can use a company's software. For tech businesses that create a software, a licensing agreement would like show the rights that the users have, and any limitation that they may have, and payment terms. This helps to like protect the company's interest and ensures that they are compensated fairly for their products. Now, if your business develops software, you need a software licensing agreement, and it will help show how third parties can use the software, including any usage rights, restrictions, and payment terms. It's very critical to help protect your products and ensure proper compensation. Like I said, ensures that the company's interests are protected and they are like fairly compensated for their products. So software licensing agreement is also important. Now moving to the last one that we'll be focusing on for the sake of this webinar is the employment and contractor agreement. These agreements clearly define the responsibilities, compensation, ownership of intellectual property created by the employees or contractors. Now, it matters because they define the roles and responsibilities of each person in a tech startup, and the compensation, the expectations that you have. It is important to clearly define the responsibilities of each person working with you in a tech startup. It's important to specify. It's important to be very clear. Do we have employees or do we have independent contractors? You have to be clear, and the employment or contractual agreement will help you with that. There are some benefits that employees have that independent contractors do not have. There are certain things that applies to independent contractors that cannot apply to an employee. So it's important to be clear on this. Now, the clarity will help you prevent disputes over who owns the work created during employment. It will also help the company retain the rights to intellectual properties that were developed. Like we said, we referred to when we're talking about the intellectual property assignment agreement. So, yes, so all these contracts that we earlier mentioned are very important for every tech startup to successfully run their business. A well-structured contract will allow you as a tech startup to attract investment. Investment is important, but investors look at or they look for legal safeguards before funding. Nobody wants to put their money in a sinking ship. So they once you have a good legal framework or good contracts, investors are more prone to work with someone who has that than someone who does not even know anything and is just trying to use word of mouth to get things done. So contracts like IP assignments, investment agreements show that the company has thought through their ownership, the risk, the exit strategies, and just making it a safer investment in conclusion. So Also, the well-structured contracts also provides a framework for expanding teams, for onboarding contractors and entering new markets, ensuring everyone understands their roles and expectations. I think this boils back down to the employment agreement, where we're talking about how you have to be very clear about the roles and the obligations of everybody on your team. So having a well-structured contract will make sure everybody knows their place and everybody knows what they are there to do. So it's this having contracts, structured contracts will help you put everything in place and ensure that everybody knows their roles and their expectations. So also well-structured contracts can also help you establish trust and accountability with partners, like in case of collaborations and all of that. It will help you do that. It will also help you handle disputes efficiently. When disputes arise, when you have a well-drafted contract that outlines how this issue should be resolved, whether through negotiation, arbitration, or litigation, it helps, everything just run smoothly and, minimize disruptions. Moving on to what we mentioned earlier, how you cannot wait until you have issues before you set certain things in place. Contracts are essential for managing risk. You can't wait until the problem has already started before you manage risk. As a tech startup running a business, agreements like data processing agreements, they help to ensure that you're compliant with the data protection laws and even also the privacy policy as well. And it reduces the risk of costly breaches or fines. The non-disclosure agreements, the IP assignment agreements, they protect a startup's intellectual property from theft or misuse. We also have service level agreements, which it sets performance expectations. It also minimizes the liability for service failures. By addressing these potential risks upfront, by making sure that you do not you prepare for the worst instead of waiting for the worst to come. Tech businesses can operate more securely and confidently, knowing that they have legal protections in place. In conclusion, contracts not only protect tech startups in the early stages, but they also provide a structured approach for growth, making it easier to scale without losing control of legal and operational risk. So basically what has been said earlier, which is that it's not just in the early stage that your contracts protect you, because you're looking at also protecting yourself from future risk and future issues. So it's something that's important to you continuously, and it makes it easier to grow and to achieve success as a business. So good. That's all. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. I would want to check for questions in the chat box. Even see. Okay, so since we do not have any question right now, I would say that if you have any further questions concerning how to get this contract or how to any question at all on any of the contracts or the agreements that we mentioned for your tech startup or for your tech business, you can send us a message on Instagram or you send to our email address. So thank you so much for joining the webinar.